YouTube? Roshad here. E3 2021 was announced about 2 or so weeks ago. So you know what it's time for, baby? A speculation video. They got a couple attendees, including Microsoft, Nintendo, Capcom, Take-Two Interactive, and a few others. Quick caveat though, Sony is not confirmed attending. As a matter of fact, they just did their state of play, so there's a good chance they're not gonna be here whatsoever. So unfortunately, there's not gonna be any Sony exclusive related content or expectations in this video. I may make another video about that though for some upcoming Sony content that we can talk about. Anywho, this is gonna be everybody besides Sony top 10 most anticipated games of this year's upcoming E3 2021. Let's go.
Hide.
Is that a motherfucking dragon?
Number 10, FORSPOKEN. Crazy monsters, developed by Square Enix, open world gameplay, gorgeous protagonist. What other meaning in life is there? I'm really looking forward to this game, jokes aside, because it looks like another great first party IP by one of the greatest developers that exists, Square Enix. Now I know Square is notorious for kind of always only caring about the latest and greatest technology and graphics and stuff like that, and kind of falling short, especially more recently with the Final Fantasy series and things like that. Not to mention Kingdom Hearts 3 being somewhat of a flop, at least in terms of reception. But whenever there's anything new, they tend to really be on top of their game. So I'm really looking forward to this new IP, and hopefully the creative juices were really flowing and they allowed the developers to really shine and put all that they envision into the game so that it turns out and lives up to the potential that we're seeing. I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing more of this at this year's E3. Number 9, Beyond Good and Evil 2. What? I played the original Beyond Good and Evil at my folks' house. It was well over like a decade ago. I remember we were gonna go on a trip somewhere like to Florida to Disney World or something, and I decided that I wanted to play this game, finally play it. I played it all night. It was about a 10 or so hour game. Played it all night so that I could go to sleep in the car and be asleep the entire ride all the way to Florida in Disneyland, when I anticipated going to Disneyland. Funny thing about that is we didn't even end up going, but I still had an awesome gameplay experience because Beyond Good and Evil was really freaking fun. Just an awesome game. There's a lot of different things you had to do. I remember with the character's camera. It's a little long ago, so I can't remember it all, but they've been kind of teasing Beyond Good and Evil 2 for so long, and the pig character, I can't remember his name, appears to be quite prominent in a lot of the trailers. So obviously the developers are really fond of this character, and I'm fond of him as well. It looks way darker than the original, which should be pretty interesting. So obviously, since it's been so long, they haven't exactly established the type of game series that it needs to be. So whatever they end up changing up, I'm all for it. I just don't want this thing to go the way of like Half-Life 3 or Half-Life 2 Part 3, whatever it is, and just never get released. So hopefully they at least can release this game and we can get this show on the road. I want to see some footage already to get us excited, man. Don't let me forget about this.
Get ready.
Number 8, Halo Infinite. And before I say anything further, Halo is not exactly one of my favorite series. I'm not a big first-person shooter guy. However, Halo does happen to be one of the ones that I play the most because I always have a lot of friends who play Halo, and they always bug the hell out of me until I agree to play with them, and I usually end up getting pretty decent at all the games. Of course, Halo 2 is the one that I played the most. I believe that was definitely one of the more popular ones. So the Halo Infinite, when that comes out, I got no doubt that somehow or another I'm gonna get drawn into it. So what I'd love to see is some more additional gameplay for it, so I can really get a feel for how it's gonna play out, and I can play it on my ultra powerful brand new PC that I'm super proud about, and I can hopefully play if they do the cross play for that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing some more gameplay for that. Maybe even a gameplay demo, open beta, something to get us hyped and excited for what's to come later this year. Number 7, Psychonauts 2. I missed out on the original Psychonauts back when it was on PS2. I did eventually get the PS4 version, and well, it's the PS2 version on PS4. I played it and it was freaking awesome. Still haven't finished it. I'm like this close to the end, and for whatever reason I just stopped. I think it was because the game was like really long, and I think I started this YouTube channel, so I just never got around to it. But I really love the game. Really quirky mechanics in it. Some stuff of which I've never seen in any other game. So I'm really looking forward to the sequel, just to see what they can come up with. The bar just keeps getting higher and higher, so I know that they're gonna come up with something, hopefully, fingers crossed, really fun. And I wanna see some actual gameplay for this, because there's a trailer for it, but you can't really glean much out of it. So I wanna see what they have to offer. They've left us waiting long enough. The original came out like, I don't even know how long ago, so what, 15 years ago or something? Just an insane amount of time. So we deserve to see some more. They already announced the game. Let's get it going, people. Number 6, EVERWILD. EVERWILD looked to be a promising game just based off of what they showed us at the Xbox Game Showcase. They had some really nice and methodical music going along with the story elements that they had, and the graphical style of it. It looks very artistic, like it's going to be this mysterious game. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they have in terms of gameplay, because they didn't really show anything. This was also developed by Rare Studios, the folks behind games like Banjo-Kazooie, Diddy Kong Racing back in the day, 007. Even though most of the developers behind those games have inevitably left the company, thanks a lot, Microsoft. Even still, I'm sure that it's still going to be a pretty fantastic game, or at least I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. We'll see. Hopefully they show us something at E3.
Look up at the sky. It burns.
Number 5, Elden Ring. Elden Ring. The creator of Game of Thrones, the Game of Thrones novels, you know, the good stuff, not the HBO stuff, the good stuff, meets From Software, the developers behind Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, open world game. Need I say more?
The Elden Ring. Oh, Elden Ring. Shattered by someone or something.
They haven't shown any gameplay footage for the game yet. Hopefully that's because this game is going to be so freaking phenomenal. They want to make sure that they get it right. I have tremendous respect for any game developers and studios, publishers, whomever, that decide to go that route. Keep doing what you got to do. Don't wind up like Cyberpunk. Metroid Prime 4. I freaking love the Metroid series, particularly the Metroid Prime series. I think most people, at least based off of sales figures, seem to love the original two-dimensional Metroids better, but the Metroid Prime series is my shit. I love Samus Aran, Zero Suit, Dark Samus, Mother Brain, who the hell ever, everybody and everything about the Metroid series, just the overall ambiance, the way they do the music, like pretty much everything except for that last game. I forget what it was called, Other M. Yeah, I hated that game. But when you're talking about the actual Prime series, loved everything about them, the first person view, the adventure elements of it, all the secrets. It was awesome. When they announced Metroid Prime 4, I was so freaking excited. However, it's been literal years since we've gotten anything, and apparently they had to restart development for Metroid Prime 4 at some point. So that really sucks. And I even see jobs where they're like still hiring to do the development of the game. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude, like how far away from completion are y'all? Hopefully that this means that they're really on their way towards something just mind-blowing and so incredible that they had to do all of these things and have like this massive staff to develop the game and not turn out to be like this game stuck in development hell where they don't know what the hell they're doing and they keep like balling the paper up and throwing it away and starting all over again with their design. You know, I don't know what they're doing, but hopefully they get their shit together, because this is easily one of my highly anticipated games, most highly of all time. Forget about just 2021. This is all time for me.
I'll kill you. If it's the last thing I do.
Number 3, Final Fantasy 16. So before anybody says anything, I know that Square Enix is not confirmed yet for E3, and Sony is pretty much all but not confirmed. Essentially, definitely not going to be at E3. However, there's a good possibility that Square is going to be there. I just can't really see a reason why they wouldn't be, considering how big of a company they are and the fact that they always have things to showcase, and the fact that they're also always at every E3. So they just haven't confirmed yet. We'll see. Either way, this is definitely going to be one of my top games. Now, they already promised that they were going to give news for Final Fantasy 16, so hopefully they deliver on that, and they deliver on it sooner rather than later. They also need to make some promises regarding the story and the characters, because maybe in the gameplay too, but the story and the characters are the things that I think really carry the series, and they've really fallen short for like over the last decade with everything, with the exception of Final Fantasy VII Remake, where they seem to nail pretty much everything. So hopefully they really get their act together, show us some footage for Final Fantasy 16 so we can really get a feel and idea behind what the hell they're doing and whether or not we can have faith in them to invest in the next numbered entry. And Final Fantasy 16, 15, while good, wasn't really, just didn't hit the mark for me. Something about it felt like it was missing after you finished the game and the dust settled. Something about the characters and overall lore for the game just didn't hit. So this is gonna have something to do with the crystals and removing the world from the tyranny of the crystals, which is pretty much what the entire universe for the Final Fantasy series is composed of. This ought to be interesting. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully it winds up at this year's E3. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. I played the original Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild ages ago. It was freaking phenomenal. One of my favorite games of all time. Still not my number one Zelda game, but it's real close. It's literally my number 2. Loved it. So obviously when they announced Breath of the Wild 2, at first I saw the trailer and I thought it was going to be like some DLC or something for Breath of the Wild. But when I found out it was a sequel, I was blown away. I think I like jumped up out of my chair when I saw this. So I'm really excited to see some more. It was like 2 years ago that they announced it. So Nintendo, it's time. Show us some more, damn it. I want to see what new gameplay mechanics you have and if you improved on the current mechanics. Like I know the dungeons were essentially the divine beasts, but they were like really short and they were all very similar. And they just felt a little underwhelming compared to the dungeons. Zelda dungeons traditionally involved having very different environments, very different bosses, not to mention you collect new items within the dungeons. Now, I don't know with an open world game how easy it'll be to incorporate the last part about having some new items, but at the very least, I love to see something new inside of actual real dungeons, relics of the past, buried beneath the earth and in the sky or in a tree, whatever bullshit they come up with. I want to see stuff like that again in an open world Zelda game, not just the divine beasts. I also want them to be a lot longer and tougher, just more challenging, and not the kind of this short experience. All those shrines and all that stuff were nice, like 200 shrines or however many there were, but I want an actual gauntlet. That's what the dungeons are all about. Like, oh man, what the hell do I do? I'm confused. There's so many rooms, there's so many doors, I got all these keys. That's the feeling that I want. I want to feel a little bit of a pit in my stomach, like I don't know what the hell to do. There's danger around every corner. That's the meat and potatoes of Zelda, and I want that feeling back. Hopefully at this year's E3 we get that, and if we do get some really good footage, this game could potentially wind up getting my number 1 spot right up there where Ocarina of Time is, finally trumping it. It's gonna be tough, but we'll see if Nintendo can do it. Number 1, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Part 2. The Final Fantasy VII Remake was definitely one of my all-time favorite games, period, and is now my top Final Fantasy game out of the entire series. Just everything from the presentation, the characters, even some of the ways that they changed the story up. The mini games were good, the gameplay was good, like the combat. Everything about this game was phenomenal. The menu systems, the materia, they really did their damn thing. They did not disappoint. They knew that they couldn't. They didn't want to damage their brand. Final Fantasy VII is like a brand in of itself, separate from the rest of the Final Fantasy series, and they sure as hell delivered. Now with the sequel coming up, and now you got DLC, the Intergrade coming up. So the sequel hasn't been announced, but the Intergrade DLC with Yuffie, of course, has been announced. That's releasing in June. With that DLC releasing, they're probably not gonna release or even talk about another title in the series yet. However, I'm still hopeful that they'll just say screw it and really decide to surprise us. Do something that blows us out of the water like they did in previous years' E3s.
At last, the promise has been made.
it was totally different once upon a time where everyone was there. Like Nintendo was always there, Sony was always there, Microsoft was always there, and they always just went all out to impress. Whereas now you get these kind of lackluster presentations, and I'm just hoping that somebody decides that they want to be a showstopper, and hopefully that Square Enix this year, either them or Nintendo or Metroid Prime 4, somebody needs to capitalize and take advantage and really show these other companies that E3 is still worthwhile, or even just reinvigorate their competitive spirit and make them feel as though, you know what, I want to have a top game at E3, so I'm gonna come up with some crazy trailer for one of the games that I'm developing. Hopefully Square Enix decides this is their year and they go crazy with Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2. Really freak us the hell out, have us jumping out of our chair, hitting up our friends on the phone and making Facebook posts, Twitter posts, and Twitter messages, blowing up our news feed and having all these speculation videos and all these reaction videos. That's what I want to see, and hopefully it's for Final Fantasy VII Remake. But, you know, Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 would be a close second, and stuff like Metroid and all that would also be really awesome. But Final Fantasy VII right now is top of the mind. They just really blew me out of the water and showed us great signs of things to come. So hopefully a Remake Part 2 is not only announced, but there's some sort of gameplay trailer for it or something to really get us hyped going forward. That's my number one, guys. I appreciate y'all checking the video out, staying to the end. Please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell. If you ring the bell, you get notifications every time I make a video, so you won't miss anything in case the algorithm is out to get me and they never recommend any of my videos. If you hit the bell, you'll always be recommended my video. So definitely appreciate you checking me out. I'm gonna go ahead and get on out of here. Catch y'all next time.